بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. Ibn Ata'illah says, متى أطلق لسانك بالطلب فاعلم أنه يريد أن يعطيك. You know, it's only somebody who really understands Allah, really on a high level of perception and awareness, can say something like this. He says, when He loosens your tongue with a request, then know that He wants to give you something. When He loosens your tongue with a request, then know that He wants to give you something. Obviously meaning that when He gives you the divine enablement and the tawfiq to ask Him for something, then know that inshallah you'll get it. That He wants to give you something. Otherwise, you won't even ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even if you don't, even if you get something through other means, you won't get the barakah in it, because you haven't made Allah part of it. When He loosens your tongue with a request for the objective of servanthood, or other than it through a spontaneous outburst, you're sitting there, you're viewing something, reading something, thinking about something, and then suddenly you say, oh Allah, give me this. Allow me to help. You know, this spontaneous sometimes. Then know that He wants to give you something. Have you ever wondered where these thoughts even come from? It comes to some people, it doesn't come to other people. In such a case, what you want is what He wants. Now, don't think you have profited now, because if that happens sometimes. It has been narrated on the authority of Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that whoever is permitted to make supplication, the gates of mercy are opened up for him. Remember, this is real, sincere supplication. We actually feel that you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something. Allah is never asked for a thing more beloved to Him than being asked for forgiveness and well-being. That's why a poem states, if you did not will that I receive what I hope for of your bounty, you would not have taught me how to ask. And at the end of the day, you know, the ad-du'a'u huwa al-ibadah, ad-du'a'u mukh al-ibadah. The whole reason why that is the case is because dua is a ibadah. Though we're asking for something seems like a selfish act, whereas ibadah seems like an act of giving to Allah, an act of devotion. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that you're making dua is ibadah. It's the kernel of worship, the essence of worship. It is worship. We find it very difficult to reconcile first, because we feel that in questioning, asking, supplicating, we're asking for something which is selfish act. And ibadah is supposed to be a selfless act. But really in asking, what we're doing is we are showing our servitude and need. That, oh Allah, I need, and I can only ask you, and I've come to you. Because arrogant people don't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What we were reading today, which I felt was very important, is acquiring halawatul iman, acquiring the sweetness of faith. Sweetness of faith there's difference among the ulama as to what sweetness of faith means. Is it something perceptible, or is it just a ritual that you eventually do everything that's correct? Sweetness of faith, does it mean that you just do everything correct, halal and haram? You make sure you do all the halal things, the fara'id, and you avoid all of the haram things and the prohibitions. That's just ma'nawi. That's what the fuqaha will tell you generally, right? That as long as you're doing this, then this is your iman, and this is what you call halawatul iman, that you are getting it right. However, what the spiritual people will say is that no, this is something perceptible. This is something that you will experience. And then a number of examples you can think about is that the Sahaba that were being shot at when they were on supervision duty, after being shot 3 times, only then, out of fear that the enemy will now think that we're in, we're not in any kind of consciousness, and they will attack. That's when he broke his prayer, or that's when he that's when he woke up his partner. How we for a small scratch, imagine if you suddenly felt a pinch or a small prick, right? Imagine if you stood up from your sajda and you felt a little prick on your heel. We think it's such a big deal that we'd probably break our salat for that, right? He's being shot 3 times an arrow. I mean, that's not a joke. And his reason for changing, his reason for moving from there, and is something totally unrelated. This is this is what's being used as evidence for the halawatul iman as being something perceptible, something that you can actually experience. At the end of the day, what it is that, companies today, they've figured it out. That rather than sell you a product and mention its merits, they should sell you their vision, their company, and their entire brand. And one of the most successful companies in that regard is this one with the Eat an Apple, right? I think this is the only Apple product I have, by the way. But they won't sell you the iPad itself. They will sell you the brand of Apple. And there's a number of studies that have been done in this regard. If they sell you their vision, then you will buy all of their product and you will become a convert. If I sell you just the iPad, then I have to do the same, spend enough money on the iPod and the iWatch or whatever it is and all the rest of it. But if I sell you that this is a company, this is its vision, they do everything with perfection, refinement, so on and so forth, then it's the same thing. If I say to you that white thread press, right, we focus on this, that and the other, perfection in typesetting, and we take into consider, we will take 5 years to do a book, 10 years to do, while others may take five books in a year, we may just do 1 book in a year. I'm selling you what we are all about. Then anything comes from bright purpose, you'll take it. It's just an example, by the way. Right? But that's what it is. This is the kind. Why should I tell you? This is not a business class. What I'm telling you is that we need to go out there and create love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the same way. So whether we're talking about salat or whatever the case is, speak about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that you're selling the entire brand as such. You're selling the whole deen. What can the deen do for you? Not just what one salat can do for you. Not just what eating halal can do for you. Not just what avoiding zina can do for you. But what the whole thing does for you. Then everything becomes easy. It's about creating that love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that people become such converts, right? Even people within, that then they take everything related to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is what is required from us, because وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. That's essentially what it is. Those people who believe they are the most intense in their love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what Allah wants from us. And halawatul iman can only be strengthened by understanding who Allah is and loving Him to that level, so that everything then becomes easy to do. That's why some have defined halawatul iman as finding a specific satisfaction and accomplishment in doing aspects of the deen because of your love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we're finding it difficult to do the deen, then we don't have the halawa yet. We haven't done enough mujahada in that regard, because it's mujahada that gives you that exertion in your efforts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us. But it's that, and other brands are basically, this is what they are competing about, to sell you their entire brand. And you can see how Apple has done in the last, they've just overtaken, because they didn't focus on products, they focused on the entire branding, my company's vision. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us true brand ambassadors, which means true mu'mineen, true representatives, because that's essentially why we are here. You have not come here, the maqsad of our, mashallah, our elders who established this place and all the other madaris, our Mufti Sadr and Mufti Maulana Anas and all the others before them, from where our tradition comes, and the ulama in general throughout the whole purpose of teaching the next generation is not just man ta'allama al-Quran, but it's wa'allamahu. And you need huge amount of wisdom to be able to deliver that message. Huge amount of wisdom to deliver that message. There are many ways of saying something, many ways of explaining explaining one thing. Our purpose should be to stand there and see how can I convince these people of this point. And for that you have to have firm resolution yourself, firm commitment. You have to be convinced yourself. And of course this will take some training and experience and learning. Right? You may make mistakes. But if there's a person who's doing, because you know, they're all talaba here, right? Because if you just memorize one lecture and you go and give it, whether it be intellectuals or lay people or in a masjid, in a university or whatever, and you're saying the same thing in every place, it's not going to work. That's not wisdom. Delivery, method of delivery, words you use, examples that you use, psychology has a lot to do with it. Put yourself in their place and see how you can be convinced by that. Does it require me to just mention 10 hadith? Or is it better for me to mention 2 hadith but really try to apply those narrations? Because the first bayans that people do are what? Go to Riyadh al-Salihin, Al-Adab al-Mufrad, Tanbih al-Ghafilin, and whatever other bayan books that we have, right? Wonderful books. And you take all the hadith on jealousy. You say, Prophet said this, and he said this one, and he said this one. And what we do is we actually leave it for the congregation to make their own conclusions from that. Alhamdulillah, that's one way of doing it. Another way is to take 2 hadith and just give relevant, practical, everyday examples of how this applies, where it doesn't apply, and where it does apply. Examples of how it's benefited certain people. That's, and then what you will realize is, don't be somebody who's just speaking and not gauging the crowd. You have a responsibility. So of course you start off with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You ask Allah for assistance and guidance. And then you gauge the crowd. What's their reaction? Are they falling sick? This doesn't make sense to them. In America, we're used to giving very intellectual talks because most people there are very educated. So you have to explain everything very rationally. I came back to the UK and I went to Bradford and it was one of the first talks I gave, and I think I just lost the crowd. Because I was like, what is he talking about decadence? What does that word mean? The only time we've seen decadence is with, what's that called, that ice cream? Magnum. Pure decadence. It means lots of chocolate, lots of sugar, right? So you have to tone down or upscale to speak to different crowds. Your maqsad is not just delivering a lecture, your maqsad is to da'wah, open the hearts, make make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more of a source of satisfaction for them, the Sharia. And you will learn that through experience. But your maqsad has to be to not do a wonderful bayan. It's how can I convince even 2 people then? Because remember, not everybody's going to be convinced, but how can I give something that is useful? Not just something that people are going to say, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But there's no follow-up of that. One scholar, he said that before, when I used to do bayans, people would say, wonderful bayan. Now, after I've changed, and put more spirituality in it and everything, he said people come and say that, the last time I heard you, this is what I put into practice. Now I'm doing this. That's what you want to hear. Not, wow, So there's a lot of wow factors, but that's not what you want. You want amal factors. This is what it's made me do. How can you move people? And for that, you have to be moved yourself first. If your study is half-hearted, if you're not fully convinced yourself, you don't have the zeal to want to do something with it, then how are you going to move somebody else? You can't move somebody else without you moving yourself. So let's try to move ourselves, get fully convinced, and then inshallah we can help others. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that halawa and conviction in our hearts. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.